Hey everyone, a couple months ago I made a video on how you could sentence mine with only using 3 hotkey presses, and I did that using a series of scripts. And in the comment section, some people were intrigued and a little bit confused on how I created it. So in this video, I'll be going on I'll be talking about how I created the scripts, the coding languages I used, and I guess my thought process behind everything. This video is probably going to be very interesting to you if you're a coder or programmer, but if you're not, if you're just an average language learner, or if you're not a programmer, then feel free to stick around because you might learn a thing or two. So first off, the entire reason why I created this was because the amount of hotkeys that you had to press was is too much. In terms of sentence mining, I think I counted, there's something like 11 or 12 different actions that I had to do. Like you press this hotkey, then you open up this folder, copy, paste, and there's all this. There's just too much stuff that you have to do, and I wanted to reduce the complexity. And for example, let's say that you had to press 3 hotkeys. Instead of pressing 3 hotkeys, you could just press 1 hotkey to press the other 2 for you. So it just reduces the amount of complexity and makes things more simple. So the original actually got an early version of this working using Logitech software. So I have a Logitech mouse and Logitech keyboard, and using Logitech software, I think whoops, what did I just do? Okay, so anyway, in here in the macro settings, these are the original hotkeys that I used, and I created it using Logitech software because it's really nice. You can create like hotkeys and delays and things like that. And I was thinking about posting a video just exporting these and just showing them off, but I was looking around and found out that if you don't have a Logitech device, then you can't use these scripts. That really sucks for all of us, or all the people who don't use Logitech. So I was looking for basically a way to make this more accessible for everyone and not just people who have Logitech devices. And I was looking around on the internet for stuff like scripting language, coding hotkeys, things like that. And I came across AutoHotkey. And AutoHotkey is a scripting language that allows you to basically input keyboard presses into the keyboard. And also, there's a lot of other stuff you can do with it, but it's a very powerful language. So once you download AutoHotkey from the site, I'll put the link in the description. Let's see. I have some folders here showing off what it basically how to create an AutoHotkey script. So once you actually download the software, in order to create a new script, there's 2 ways you can do it. One is you right click on the screen, you go to new. Actually, this might be add. Anyway, there's a way to basically create a new script just by right clicking on the screen and clicking AutoHotkey script. And then you would create the name and then click create, and that's how you do it. Another way of creating an AutoHotkey script is by like creating a text file and then renaming the file extension to .ahk, because .text is just normal text file, but .ahk stands for AutoHotkey. So that's how you could create the script as well. Anyway, do not double click it. In order to edit it, you don't double click it. You just right click it, and you can use any coding editor. I'm going to be using Notepad because it just makes things simple, but you could use Visual Studio Code for a better coding experience. But I'll just be using text or Notepad. So I'll also be opening a blank text document just so I'll paste stuff in there later. So let's make sure, yeah, you can see all that. So this right here is a very simple AutoHotkey script. So what this means is control is the caret, shift is plus, and Q is Q. So this command, or this series of characters, means control shift Q. And you would know that from AutoHotkey has this, they have documentation, and where did it go? Yeah, so like control, you see control would be the caret, alt is exclamation point, shift is plus. They also have other characters for like, they have like the Windows keys, the F keys, and arrow keys as well. And there's documentation on this, and that's how you would learn it. But basically, this means control shift Q. The 2 colons basically mean if you press control shift Q, then it runs whatever's after it. So control shift Q, if you press it, then it's going to run this line. And this line sends ASD to the keyboard. So it's basically saying if you press Control-Shift-Q, it'll press ASD on the keyboard. And if I go ahead and let's see. If I go ahead and open the example folder, let me go ahead and close these out. But in order to actually run it, what you would do is there's two ways to run it. You could either right click it and click run, or you could double click it to run. And when you do that, you'll see that the H appears in the small taskbar. If it doesn't, you probably just have to click the arrow and drag it down. But now it's activated. So when the H isn't there, if you press the hotkey, it won't do anything. But when the H is there, then it's activated, which means that if you press the hotkey, it'll do something. So if I have this text document right here, if I press Control-Shift-Q, there's ASD, and I can press this multiple times. And yeah, that's how it works. So this is good, but it could be better. So one thing that my computer science professor told me, and a good coding principle is keep things simple. The acronym is called KISS. It's keep it simple, stupid. I didn't come up with the acronym name. And there's also another one called DRY, which is don't repeat yourself. And basically this code right here is not very, it's not very user friendly and doesn't often explain what it does. So a better way of doing this is actually creating two files. So the first file you create, or the first file is the main file, which is the one as before, but then I have a new file called press ASD. So AutoHotkey has this feature. Again, it's a powerful piece of software. You can't see that, whoops. AutoHotkey is very powerful because it can run different programs on your computer. So you could say something like, if I press Control-K, then open Microsoft Word. Or if I press Control-D, then open Google Chrome, stuff like that, if you put in the file location. So it's basically thinking, if it can run different programs on your computer, could I run another AutoHotkey script? Because that's a program, right? And the answer is yes. So with these two files right here, the main file and then the second file called press ASD, the first line is exactly the same, which is if I press Control-Shift-Q, then what it's going to do is run this file, a separate file called pressasd.ahk. .ahk again is the file extension or the file ending, because this is a AHK file, not a text file. So if I press that hotkey, it'll run this file, and that file contains the command for pressing ASD on my keyboard. So it's just a way of splitting things up and making things more easy to edit. 'Cause if you imagine, if I had something like, if this were a really long piece of code and I had send ASD here, send ASD, and so on and so forth, I don't want to, if I decided to change this to put another D, I'd have to do that in every single other spot. So this is just a way of making things simple, making it so that if you change it in one place, it changes it everywhere. So that's basically a way of splitting up your text files, and make sure it's on the screen. So for example, actually I didn't close out the previous one. So if you want to deactivate the previous, a certain AutoHotkey file, you'd right click it and click exit. And the great part about this technique of splitting it in multiple files is that you only have to run one file. So I don't have to double click both of them. All I have to do is double click one, which is the main one. And if I just click or press Control-Shift-Q, it presses ASD for me. And I only have the main open. I don't have press ASD open. And that makes things very convenient and very simple. So that's the second step. Now the third step is not just having the keyboard outputs as a separate file, but actually having the inputs as a second file. So basically saying, could I have Control-Shift-Q as a separate file? And the answer there is also yes. So if I go ahead and close these out, I have the main file. I'll get to this in a minute. I have Control-Shift-Q, and then I have the press ASD file. Make sure you can see that. Yeah, okay. So you have the main file, Control-Shift-Q, and then press ASD. Press ASD is exactly the same as before, but the big difference here is Control-Shift-Q. Of course, I could call this file whatever I want, but this is a text file, and it contains the command or the symbols for Control Shift Q. And basically in the main file, you read the text file and you create a variable out of it. So this file read here reads Control Shift Q, takes the text, whatever is in there, and it creates a new variable, which is also called Control Shift Q, and puts that that text as the variable. And you don't have to make I didn't have to make this variable name the same thing as the text file. I only did it because it just makes things more convenient and more easy to understand. So like this variable right here is the exact same thing as this variable. I could call this whatever I want, but I just call it Control Shift Q because it's easier. So I found this online, so I can't necessarily explain all of it, but basically it's taking Control Shift Q and saying if you press Control Shift Q, then it runs the ASD file, this file, and then that file sends ASD to my keyboard. And again, this is simple because you only have to have main open. So if I double click main, and if I click Control Shift Q or press Control Shift Q, there you have it, ASD. And it's a little bit buggy because sometimes if you like hold Control Shift and then press Q multiple times, it'll bug out, but you have to like release all the keys in order for it to work. But yeah, it's basically the reasoning behind how everything works. And a small thing about AutoHotkey, if you're ever editing files, say if I'm adding, if I did something like this, if I click save and then try to like do the hotkey, it's actually not going to work. You have to reload the script in order for it to actually register the new changes, even if you press save. So for example, you could either right click the H and click reload, or you could just close it out and go back into it. Either way works. So that's basically the idea of it, of how AutoHotkey can read multiple files, or it can read the hotkey that you're going to input, and then it can also output lines of code from another file. And using multiple files like this is easy because, well, it's easy to edit because if you open it up in one spot, or if you change something in one location, it changes to everything else. So that's basically a demonstration of it. But now let's go to the actual code. So this is, actually I should have, let's see here. I do have the script file that's open. So if I go ahead and open the Windows form, yeah, I meant the Windows form. So this is the primary, actually I should take a step back. So these right here, these are the three main scripts. You can imagine those as like the main scripts. And then inside this helper folder are all the variables and all the specific hotkeys and specific variables. And it reads from each one of these files inside this helper folder. These three main files do. So the first script is take screenshot and record audio with ShareX. And whenever you press Control Shift F1, it runs this. Whenever you press Control Shift F2, it runs this one. Control Shift F3 is this one. And yeah, let's basically go through it and see how exactly it works. So first of all, this is not what I did not create this. This is, I think it was auto generated at some point, but it's recommended to have some of these enabled, so I don't mess with it. Over here is file read, so I'm reading in different values from different files, text files. So like, is recording audio. You have to keep track of if the audio is recording or not, because you use the same hotkey for starting and stopping the recording. So say if you press the hotkey, it takes a screenshot, starts the recording. But if you press the same hotkey, it's going to take another screenshot and stop the recording. But taking two screenshots is kind of redundant. So that's why you have to keep track of whether the audio is recording. And it's just a 0 or 1. If it's not recording, the value is 0. If it is recording, the value is 1. And it swaps back and forth. And that's how you keep track of it. In fact, it's right here. It's just a 0 inside of a text file. So yeah, you read different files in. Delay general. You have to have delays in here. And these are in milliseconds because even though your computer is fast, it cannot run instantaneously. And it needs it just needs time to rest, and the system can't run instantaneously. So like delay general, this is 500, I believe. Yeah, 500 milliseconds. And you read in other files as well. And I'll get to those. File read, remember this structure. So I'm importing the text file variable. This is Control Shift F1. So that is this one right here. See, Control Shift F1, reading that into here. So when you press Control Shift F1, it runs this code over here. And again, if the audio is not recording, runs this. If it is recording, then you run this. And these are basically the same lines of code, but some stuff is inverted. So you have another variable called like when to take screenshot, because you can choose whether to take the screenshot at the beginning or the end. Right here, like if you want the screenshot taken before you record, after you stop the recording, or do you not want a screenshot at all? And that controls that right there. So you have like run, it goes to the helper folder, / navigates inside the folder, runs AHK script for take screenshot with ShareX. I believe this one, let's see, where is that? Take screenshot, this one. So I believe this is Control Alt S. Yeah, Control, and then Alt for exclamation point, and then S. This runs Control Alt S. And then you have delays in here. Sleep basically means rest. So delay general is 500. And when this runs, it would run, it would sleep for 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And yeah, you also run toggle recording audio, play pause video. Again, you can also, in addition to doing keyboard presses, you can also do mouse inputs. Right now, yeah, it is set to mouse input. So you can set like the mouse to click, and that's pretty cool. This is more of just the same, but just some stuff is swapped around. Now, is recording audio. This one, if it's set to 0, or if it is 0, it gets set to 1. Otherwise, if it is 1, then it gets set to 0. I already explained why you need to keep track of whether the audio is recording or not. And this only changes the variable itself. So in order to actually put it in to the text file, I'm sure there's better ways of doing it than deleting the file and then creating a new file with the same name. So again, I looked online for this. File delete just deletes is recording audio.txt. File append creates a new file and inputs this variable into the text file. So that's how you change the variable in a text file. So that's the first main script, which is take screenshot and record audio with ShareX. How about this one? Paste screenshot and audio with Ditto. So this one, again, same stuff up here. This is auto-generated. I don't mess with it. You read different files because you have to import them from the helper folder. Whenever you press the hotkey, then it takes a slight delay. And what also does is you have loops in here. So basically loop is basically your for loop or while loop. A index is, imagine like in Java when you have like int I equals 0, I less than whatever, I plus plus. A index is basically I. So when A index equals 2, this is basically saying on the second iteration, run this. And there's not that much interesting stuff in here. There's like send right would mean press the right arrow key. Send enter is press enter. And the reason you do this when you're pasting stuff is because when it originally presses the hotkey for pasting stuff with Ditto, my default hotkey is Control Shift Alt. Let me just copy some stuff so I don't leak anything. But my default hotkey is Control Shift Alt D. And when you do that, it shows up everything that you've copied shows up here. You navigate through it by pressing the arrow keys, and then pressing enter would actually paste what you want. And that's why you have like, that's why you have press the arrow key down, press enter, and things like that, with delays between every single action, of course. Yeah, so that's if you take the screenshot at the beginning. If you take the screenshot at the end, which is when this variable is 1, then some stuff is in a different order, which is why you have to, the code is a little bit different. But again, you have like a loop here, loops twice. You have to activate Ditto, which presses the hotkey. So like activate Ditto would do this right here. If it's like the first time, you press enter. If it's the second time, you press down and then enter, so on and so forth. Then if you don't take a screenshot, then you only have one thing that you have to paste. So just open ditto like that, and then press enter, and that's it. So that's the second one. The third one, paste multiple screenshots with ditto. There's actually a way, not only, let me see. There's a way not only, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a way to create Windows forms within AutoHotkey. So for example, if I opened up all the scripts. So if I press Control Shift F3, it opens up this. And again, I found this online. It's, I just had to like follow some stuff and change some things. So like input box width is the width of this. You have the height here. You have the text, like how many images should be pasted in from ditto. And the cool part about this is that whatever integer, I'm assuming, I think it actually crashes if you try putting in text, but if you put in an integer, it's going to take that integer and make it a variable. So if I put in 3 here, number of images copied is going to be 3. And it's going to loop 3 times because depending on how many images you depending on how many images you want to paste, it's going to have to loop that many times through ditto. Yeah, you have like activate ditto, which is to do this. You have other loops, press a down key, press enter to actually paste it, so on and so forth. I'm not going to get too much into it. But yeah, when you paste everything, it pastes it all in a single row, like on the same line. So what you have to do is go back to the first image, like go back then press the left arrow key, the amount of times, or the amount of images that were pasted. And then you have to put it on each separate line. So you have to press the right arrow key, press enter to put it on a separate line, and do that for as many times that you posted images. So yeah, those are the 3 main screenshots, or the 3 main scripts, and they take in I believe 11 variables from different files. Some are text file variables, others are AutoHotkey variables. And yeah, that was supposed to be this video. So the original plan for this video was for you, the user, to go into the helper folder and to manually change the text files. So basically what you would do, I would have had a tutorial on, let's say if you wanted to change the general delay, you would have to physically go into the text file, change this value. If you wanted to change the hotkeys, then you'd have to go into this file, change this. But it's just not very user-friendly. And I wanted a user-friendly way of changing these text file variables, because so basically you do not need this Windows form to actually run anything, because remember how I said earlier how you can just double click the script files. So if you just double click these and then press the hotkeys, it'll work. So yeah, you do not need this form to actually do anything. But the reason why this form is very convenient is because it allows you to edit the text file variables within the folder. So it just makes things a lot easier. So yeah, for example, let's say Control Shift F1. That is, it's better if I did this. So Control Shift F1, that one is this one. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So if I change Control Shift F1 to Control Shift F5, for example, it clicks save. Look, I just went to Control Shift F5, change it back to Control Shift F1, click save, and it went back. So that's all it does. This form, all it does is changes the text file variables for this to use. And for things like when to take screenshot, there's probably a better way of doing this. I probably could have had string variables, but basically you have, if you click beginning, 0 is in the text file variable. If you click end, it's 1. Don't take screenshot is 2. So when to take screenshot, this one. So for example, if I change this to end, this will go to 1. Change it to don't take screenshot, it'll go to 2. And yeah, that's how all this stuff works. What I'll talk about more in the future is how I am able to open and close the scripts like this. See how they open and close down here? That stuff is pretty cool. But I'll get to that actually right now. So first of all, how the heck did I create this? It looks so complicated. It's actually it's a Windows form, and the reason why I created this Windows form is because just when I was making this video, I was taking a college class on creating these Windows forms in C#. So C# is a language that's very close to Java. Basically, it's like if Java had a fraternal twin, then that would be C#. And it's very, if you already know Java, then language is very easy to learn. And I created this using Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, which is the purple one. And there's a free version of it. It's if you go to Microsoft's website, I'll post this link in the description. If you download Visual Studio Community, that's how you would download it for free. So once you download it, actually I should say, if you do have it downloaded already, let's see, my webcam isn't cutting off anything. So if you already have Visual Studio downloaded, you're gonna have to make sure that you're going to have to make sure that some specific packages are installed. For example, you're gonna have to go to Tools, Get Tools and Features, and this is gonna take a little bit, but yeah, you're gonna have to go here. If you don't have it downloaded, if you don't have Visual Studio downloaded, then download it, and then this window is gonna pop up eventually, the Visual Studio installer, but you have to change which packages you want installed. So install, or make sure that you have checked the packages that I have checked here. So excuse the language, but ASP.NET, Azure.NET, and Windows. I think this is Windows Platform Development, something like that. So yeah, these four right here, ASP, Azure, .NET, and Windows. Make sure that you have those installed. And then once you have Visual Studio installed, in order to create a new file, you can't just create like any file. What you have to do is, where is Visual? There it is, the purple one. So when you're creating a new file or a new project, what you have to do is click Create New Project, and then it's a specific type of project. So it's going to be Windows Forms App .NET Framework. So if you search for it, Windows Forms App, there's actually a bunch of these, so you have to click the correct one. It's Windows Form App. Make sure it has C# and also Windows on it. Or wait, I just got confused myself. This one, not the top one. This one, Windows Forms App .NET Framework. Make sure it has C# and Windows. So this one is already here, so I'm just gonna click that one. I'm gonna create a new project. I won't change the name. It already gives you a default name. The first time you create a project, it might take a little bit, but yeah, this is basically the way that you create Windows Forms. So first off, right off the bat, it's gonna bring you to this screen and not even doing anything. If you just click Start, what's gonna happen is, it's taking a little bit. Yeah, there's your form. You can drag it around. You can resize it. It's not much, but that's it. That's the form. So you can also like resize this in here, and if you click Start, then it'll resize it to the actual size. But how do you actually add stuff to it? So by default, I don't think that the toolbox shows here on the left. So if you don't see toolbox right here, go to View, and then Toolbox, and then that should add it right here. But this is how you add different things to the form. So for example, I could add text. Text is actually label. So if I could add a label, that's how I add text there. If I want to add a button, then I could drag and drop a button. You can move these around, you can resize it, and there's even there's checkboxes, there's even scroll bars. That's basically how you add stuff on there. Now if I wanted to change the value on there, there's a properties window right here. If I wanted to change the name of it, this is the variable name of it, so this won't actually change the text file, the text of it. I could say like LBL, let's say LBL greeting. And then if I wanted to change the actual text on there, you go to the text property and change this to, I don't know, like hello there. and that changes the text. If I wanted to change what the button does, first of all, it's the default variable name for this button is button 1, but I'm going to change that to btn, I don't know, press me. btn stands for button, and that's the variable name of it. And the text of it is in the text property. I can change this to, let's say press me with 2 S's. And there's lots of stuff you can do here. You can make it so that this button is unpressable. You can change the image alignment or like the text alignment. There's a lot of stuff you can do. But that's basically how you could imagine how I created this this form using the same principles. You create groups and you drag and drop texts. Again, there's text boxes as well. It's not that hard to create. But so yeah, all this is great, but how do you actually do stuff with it? So the way you do that is you double click on the element that you want to do something with. And what it's going to do is create a new window. And this window is going to create a default method for you. So see this button, press me dot click. This basically means whenever I click this button, run whatever in this method. For example, if I add a text, or if I add a checkbox, it's just called checkbox 1. I'll leave it like that. If I double click this, it's going to create a new method saying basically, if you check or uncheck this text box, run this method. So let's say, for example, I want to make it so that if I press me, then this variable, I want this variable to go to goodbye. So if I press this text will be changed to goodbye. How would I do that? So I would go to button, press me. Whenever the button is pressed, it does this. So I would find the variable. It's LBL greeting. Remember, I changed the variable. I think it was the default variable name was label1. I changed it to greeting. Dot text gets the text because I don't want the X or Y or anything like that. Get the text equals goodbye. And if I run it by clicking start, there it is. I mean, there's the text file, or there's the Windows form. And if I click press me, look, it just went to goodbye. So it's actually that simple to do different stuff. For example, actually, there's other stuff you can do as well. So for checkbox, see, I can check this, but it doesn't really do anything because there's nothing in this method. How about whenever I check the box, it displays a message in the output. So by that, I would say console.write write line. I don't know, why hello there. So whenever I check or uncheck the text box, it's going to write why hello there in the console, which is the output. And for some reason, I can't figure out how to get the output window displayed while this is running, but bear with me. So if I click this 3 times, 1, 2, 3, and then close it out, you'll see that in the output, then it said why hello there 3 times. So yeah, that's basically how you create stuff. There's other things you could do, like you could have it where if you click a button, then it opens another form, and then there's a lot of stuff you can do with this. You can change the icon, you can make this window unresizable. And yeah, it's just C#. It's just a language, and there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. So that's basically how you'd create stuff with C# in Visual Studio. Now, how does my code actually look? So if we go to Visual Studio and then go to mine, and you have the exact same, it's going to take a minute. Well, the cool part about this is that, let's see here. So for my folder, once you download the folder, if you go into the main folder, AutoHotkey audio sentence card script, and then here you'll see the actual Visual Studio file. So I didn't really export it. I just put the file that it created, or I put the folders that it created, and I uploaded those straight to GitHub. Meaning, if you installed everything that you need to install, you just double click this, and then you can open it and mess around with it and things like that. So yeah, this is the exact same thing as this, of course. And for my code, I'm not going to go into every single detail of the code because it's just going to be a lot. But yeah, I did have ChatGPT write some stuff for me. Not all of it. So basically for this feature right here, is ShareX currently recording audio? That's that 0 or 1 variable. I got like 90% of the way of fixing this, I got like 90% of the way of making this work, but I just could not get the last 10%. So I just had ChatGPT help me for that. Other than this line right here, everything else is written by me. So I'm not going to go over everything, but for example, you have, I forgot to talk about the load. Yeah, so if you double click any empty space on the form, it's going to create this form load method. And this method runs whenever you open the form for the first time, it runs. So if it's sitting on your desktop, you open it, it runs once. Then if you open it again, it runs again. And this is just a way of like resetting variables, and it's pretty useful to have. So you can see whenever I load the form, then it calls this method, and it loads the text file variables. Remember, the text file variables from here. It loads those and puts those into text boxes. So you can see, for example, let's see. Yeah, so text, this is the text file variable, for take screenshot and record audio with ShareX, which is the first one right here. So this variable equals the text file variable. So see, this is the text file location. This is .text. I use file.readAllText to read in the text and load it into the text box right here. So that's basically all this does. It's just whenever you open this script, or whenever you open this Windows form, it looks at all the text file variables and then imports them into the text boxes. And whenever you make a change, I already explained this earlier, whenever you make a change, it will physically change the text file variables so that the AutoHotkey scripts can use it. And yeah, for things like when take screenshot, I think I explained this before. This is like 0, 1, and 2. So that can be found right here. So like if you read the text file variable, if it's 0, then you check, you can check radio boxes. If it's 0, you check this box. If it's 1, you check this box, and so on. And yeah, that's basically the general idea behind it. Again, you can look at this code yourself because it's within the files that you downloaded For save, any text that you change, it will overwrite. It will put that text into the text file variables. So, for example, if you make a change to paste multiple images from ditto.txt, which is this one, if you change this variable, then it'll go into the text file variable, record the correct text file variable, and it will actually put caret plus F3 into that variable. And then the AutoHotkey scripts can use that. And that's basically most of everything. Oh, of course, there's the opening and closing the scripts. So this is actually looks like magic, but it's not. So AutoHotkey has this feature where you can run, not AutoHotkey. Sorry, I'm getting confused. C# has this feature where you can run command prompt lines. And let's say if there's a command prompt line for open this program, you can have C# run that line for you. Let's see, can I find it? Here it is. So that's close. Where is open? Let's see here. So that would be right here. And I'm confusing myself. Oh, right, it contains an argument. So this method that I created contains, it imports a string, and the string's name is the name of the AutoHotkey script. And in C#, actually, I'm not explaining this correctly. In command prompt, there is a way to open programs. So like if you did a certain line in command prompt, you could say open Google Chrome, open Microsoft Word, and things like that. but you can also open AutoHotkey scripts with it, right? So you can use command prompt to open an AutoHotkey script, but you can also use C# to run a command prompt line. So explaining again, C# runs a command prompt line, and that command prompt line opens the program, which is the AutoHotkey script. And there's also a way of closing the scripts. You can just, there's this line, I had to look online for this, of killing a certain task. And this is really unfortunate, but it kills all the AutoHotkey scripts that are open right now. So if you had like a separate script that are open and you clicked close, then it would close all of them. I can't figure out how to bypass that, but that's one of the downsides of this. But yeah, that's how I got this working, of open all scripts. This would reload them, close all scripts, kills the task using the method I just explained. Open all scripts, opens it all again. And yeah, that's pretty much how all of this works. Anything else? Let's see. Oh, so the icon. So there's also a way of making an icon. You can see it's a little bit hard to see on the screen, but there's this blue thing up here is my logo, which is the blue spiral. I actually figured out a way to get this icon down here to also be the blue spiral. But the only problem was that when you pinned it to the taskbar, it would just revert to this default icon. And I could not figure it out, I swear. I even asked my professor, but he couldn't figure it out. So yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things about this. I wish I could have gotten this icon to work correctly. But I think that's pretty much it. So I explained how AutoHotkey works, how you have 3 main scripts. They look at the text file variables in another folder, get imported from there, and then this Windows form changes those text file variables. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this took me a long time to make. It was almost 4 months of work, actually. So when I started creating this, I started creating it in early January, and I posted the video in April. And it was really fun. It was really annoying creating this because there's not really a way to really debug stuff. You have to debug everything yourself. So you have to do things like, if I had this enabled and this enabled, if I had all these different combinations enabled, then would the program still work? And I had to just brute force like every possible combination to make sure that there are no bugs. So that was really annoying to debug. And also another thing, I had multiple iterations of this project as well, because at first I was never planning on having this Windows form. I was never planning on having it actually be a part of this project. So when I originally wrote all of this, I wrote the original script for the video, because I script all my videos. I wrote the script for the video without taking account for the form. And then when I had the form, I had to like rewrite the video and rewrite the entire script. And then even when I'm like moving certain buttons around, like if I want to have like this button down at the bottom instead of at the top, then I have to also rewrite the script. So yeah, it was just a lot of nitpicky work like that, because I have to edit the code and the script as well. And the annoying part about it is that I really had to get it right, because this is sort of program where once you download it, that's it. It's not like I can do software updates. Once you download it from GitHub, if there's a bug, then I can't fix it. You have to download a new version of it on the website. There's not like a way to update the software or for me to push an update. So that really urged me to make sure that I get all of this stuff right the first time. But it was a lot of work, but it was really fun creating all this, and I'm pretty proud of what I came up with the Windows form and all of that. So Mac version. Some people in the video were asking for a Mac version. It's not off the table completely, but it's just something maybe I'll do it. I can't guarantee I'll do it, because Windows forms, newsflash, Windows forms do not work on Mac because Windows. So I'd have to basically create a new, learn Apple software for creating these sort of forms. And then not only that, I don't even have a Mac, so I'd have to use an emulator to do all this stuff. And AutoHotkey doesn't work on Mac either, so I'd have to learn a new coding language. It's not like learning a coding language is hard, but it's hard at the beginning, because I guess like the advice for learning a new coding language I'd say is get like a hello world file working, and then just look up on the internet whatever you want to do. So like don't take a course or anything like that. I'd say if you want to do something in the language, don't learn it first, but just learn it online as you go. And I think through that way you get the most, you don't waste time learning stuff that you don't need to learn, because that's how I learned AutoHotkey. And I learned only the things I needed to learn only by looking up stuff on the spot. So with all that said, yeah, I could create the Mac version, but it's not something that's immediately on my radar right now. So, man, this is already 45 minutes long. So I think I've talked about everything I need to talk about. Thanks for watching. Yeah, like it if you liked it. Dislike, well, not like you can see the dislike button anyway. Subscribe, comment, all that stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.